Hello everybody and welcome to Tiger Tales One Shot, a place you'll find one-off storylines written and read to you by your host, me, Tai Tiger. Today's one-off is diving back into Task Force Hojo. Task Force Hojo is a group of Power Rangers formed across the multiverse to defend the multiverse, and I'm exploring each one's backstory in one-off storylines. This story is dedicated to Sam, also known as Rebel Ranger on TikTok. She sadly passed away and she was a huge inspiration to a lot of us, a big fan of Power Rangers and a dear friend to the Zero to Hero community. So Sam, this is for you. Power Rangers, the rebel who refused to die. Sam sat there bored in her hospital room. She sat there in a lot of pain. Her chest felt tight. She sat there trying to eat something but found it hard to eat the hospital food. She had 2 IV drips in each arm and she got told that during the procedure her blood levels were dropping dramatically low. They had to force her awake. She sat there confused, not knowing if the procedure was a success or whether she would die. She gazed out of the window and saw a rooftop, a boring, plain old rooftop. She took a deep breath, but her oxygen tube was irritating her face. She pulled it out and let it hang around her neck. For the time being, she only had it in case she needed it. The doctors tried to give her a brave smile, but she knew, just like they did, her heart was failing her. Every time it would beat in her chest, it was taking her life away. The complete opposite to what a human heart was meant to do. She ended up living in the hospital for several weeks. A few more tests and a few more letdowns, she ended up with these tubes coming out of her neck. She was eventually moved to another room, and she was not allowed to move too far away from the bed, which upset Sam as she finally had a decent window which had a decent view, which by the restraint of her bed she could not get a good look through. She spent a lot of time on her phone. She spent a lot of time scrolling through messages. She wasn't great at receiving messages or responding to them. She was touched, though, that she had so many people worried about her. She felt weak. She felt drained. She did not feel like repeating herself over and over again. She also felt like a burden to people. She did not want to upset anyone or to drag them down emotionally, so instead she read the book or the back of a packet of personal cleaning cloths. She found it amusing that she could not pronounce some of the big medical words in the magazines. Over the course of the week, she went through a few things. A tube was placed in her stomach to filter out the toxins when she slept, and she had a metal wire in her arm which did stuff she didn't quite understand. She also put on an experimental drug which made her woozy, lightheaded, and all out uncomfortable, and after all that, her heart was still failing her. More days passed, and the drug seemed to work for some time. The IV was finally pulled out, but the drug did come with nausea and nerve pain, making her unable to eat and needing sleep medication to even reach the brink of sleep. She also spent a day complaining to herself, as when the nurse gave her morphine, it did not work. It almost felt like she had a tolerance to the drug. She had never had morphine before, but luckily it went uphill from there. She was moved from the ICU to her own room, and she was allowed to roam the hallway and walk as much as she could to ease up the nerve pain. And eventually, she didn't even need the sleep drug. The only thing that she was now on was heart medication. That still caused her pain. A few more days had eventually rolled through, and she'd been in the hospital for a little over a month. She was told by the doctors that she was finally gonna go home. She packed her stuff. It was the fastest she'd moved in a month. She got in the car with her husband. She looked at her with a small smile. "What?" she asked awkwardly. "You're smiling for once," her husband replied. "Yeah, I guess I am," Sam replied. Then they headed home. When she got in, she felt a breath of fresh air fill her lungs. Her legs still hurt, but she was home. She picked up her Power Ranger hoodie, threw it on, and she'd missed her signature hoodie. She sat down and took the weekend to settle back into her normal life. Another highlight was her son. She got to see him, spend time with him, but best of all, she got to watch the news with him. It was a little silly thing between them. Not all news was Power Ranger news, but every now and then the Power Rangers was on the news, fighting the good fight, saving the innocent, and her son loved it when the cameras caught footage of the Megazords. "Mum, who's your favourite Ranger? Like, who would you be?" her son asked. "I'd say the blue Mighty Morphin. He's really cool," Sam replied. "Yeah, fair. I'd go with Red myself," her son smiled. Her husband then walked in. "We kinda have a problem," he said. What is it? Sam asked. You have a checkup tomorrow, her husband replied. Yeah, I know, Sam retorted. Yeah, I have to take your mini-me on a school field trip, her husband sighed. Oh, yeah, so, I can get my mum to take me and it's fine, Sam sighed at him. You sure? He asked. Yeah, don't worry. Now leave me watching the news. Sam smiled at him. The next day, her mother drove her back to the hospital. She kept her Power Ranger hoodie on this time. Her legs hurt a lot. Walking no longer numbed the pain. Her doctors poked around and told her that she needed an operation, but it was in Texas, and that they would have to keep an eye on her for a few days. Sam sat there, her head in her hands. She just wanted it all to be over. Whether it was death or a miracle, she was fed up with the pain and the lack of energy and spending all of her time in the goddamn hospital. But everybody always called her Rebel. She never gave up and she always went in hard. So there she sat, killing her hours watching the news. She saw the Mighty Morphin Blue Ranger fighting a monster. She sat there all intense when she recognized the store. It was the place she used to buy her iced tea every morning. She then realized that the Blue Mighty Morphin Power Ranger was only a few streets away from where she was. On the news report, an explosion happened. Sam looked out the window and she could see the black smoke from a few streets over. She kept jumping back and forth from the news to window. She's watching as the Blue Ranger fought effortlessly with his power lads against a monster who looked like a walking rocket ship. It kept smashing its rocket-like arms into the Ranger. Its elbow had built-in thrusters and it smacked the Blue Ranger around, sending him flying through buildings. Suddenly, a crash happened right outside her window. She was on the first floor, so she could see the Blue Ranger laying on the crushed car. The flattered due to the impact. Suddenly, the hall started ringing with fire alarms. It was the warning for everyone to clear out. Sam stayed still, watching the monster advance on the Ranger. One floor down. She was so close, but yet so far away, and she was incredibly weak to move. She wanted to run. She was glued to the window. The monster advanced on the Blue Ranger, sending rocket attacks. Explosions erupted. Sam gasped and watched as the Blue Ranger dropped to the floor. He tried to move, but he was battered to an inch of his life. Help! Someone help him, please! Sam called out to the hallway filled with scurrying doctors and nurses, but no one heard her. Sam looked down at the monster. He jumped up and slammed both fists into the ground, and a big white explosion filled the streets. There was a shockwave that broke all the windows. Sam was knocked back as the window exploding glass flew all over her. She was very slow and pain-filled, but she managed to climb to her feet. She looked down and she stepped over the shattered glass, peering out of the windowless pane, and looked down. Everything was black, covered in ash. Vehicles were on fire, and nothing was left of the Blue Ranger. The monster was walking away. Sam looked down at the scene of the crime in shock and awe. Then she caught a glimpse of something gold. It was small and it was shiny. Sam walked away, and with great difficulty she managed to get out onto the burnt street. She walked over and wobbled over to the golden object. She bent down and picked it up. It was a gold coin with a triceratops engraved into it. Sam, what are you doing out here? A doctor called from the entrance of the hospital. She shoved the coin in her pocket and wobbled back into the hospital. There was hours of waiting and sitting around before anyone was allowed to be back into their rooms. Sam was given a new room. She sat down, her body ached, but her head was fuzzy, and her heart felt like a new type of pain. She felt incredible loss. The great Mighty Morphin Blue Power Ranger was her all-time hero, and now he was gone. She put on the news. There was more report of this nuclear rocket-like monster. He destroyed the airports and train stations, stopping people leaving the town. Her husband and son were stranded on the school trip as they could not get home, and Sam couldn't get to Texas for her operations. Sam became hospital-bound once again. Without the operations, she would die. The heart medication kept her life in a painless limbo, dragging in and out through it. She was put on IV once again, and over the course of the next few days, she got worse. She was in pain. She could video call her son to talk to him every day, but that was about it. She'd tell her husband that she loved him, but she wanted it to end. She would spend her days just sat there. She stopped watching the news. It was all about the loss of the Blue Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, and it only made her mindset worse. She kept on playing with the coin in her hand. It was light as a feather, yet there was so much weight to it. A few more days went on. Sam had gotten weaker. She tried to move, tried walking, tried eating, even tried talking, but everything was either depressing or painful, both physically or emotionally. Sam managed to get outside and walk around for a little bit. she stayed close to the hospital just in case. She sat down on a bench and thought about her family, the operation in Texas, and the town was in lockdown. A monster had destroyed most ways to leave the town. She couldn't drive in her condition. She sat there and pondered, when suddenly a huge, massive explosion erupted above her. Shards of glass rained all over her. Sam froze. The glass was small. She didn't move. She did not feel any pain or stinging sensations, so she assumed that she'd not been injured by the shards of glass. She looked up at the hospital, and it was on fire, a massive funnel of black smoke erupting from the clear blue sky. Then suddenly a figure jumped out of the fire and landed on the road. Sam stood slowly, painfully. The rocket monster that killed the Blue Ranger only stood a few feet away. "And now, time to destroy the hospital," the monster growled. "Oi, dickhead," Sam barked. She stood there out of breath, gripping the sleeves of her Ranger Slayer jacket. The monster turned around and stopped. Its ugly grey face was planted into the rocket tip's shaped head, and it was glaring at her. "Leave this hospital alone," Sam snapped. "Sorry, no can do. I've destroyed so much, and I'm so close. I am Rocket Terror, and I will be known for wiping a whole town off the map. A small victory, yes, but I will move on to another, and another. I'll take the whole world by force," the monster chuckled. "Shut the hell up, man. Nobody cares. You're destroying people's homes. You're destroying people's lives, their jobs. What caused Daddy didn't love you? You grew up to be such a mean person? Get some therapy," Sam mocked. "Shut it, human," Rocket Terror barked. Then he slammed his fist on the ground and it caused an explosion which sent Sam flying back. She hit the ground hard. Sam opened her eyes and saw the coin on the floor. She reached over trying to grab it, but someone stood there and it picked it up. Sam looked up and saw everything was blue. The sky, the floor, was all a beautiful sky of blue. The monster was nowhere to be seen. Then the person who picked up the coin held out his hand, and Sam took it and was helped to her feet. She looked at his face. "Holy crap! You're Billy Cranston, the tech genius guy," Sam blurted. "That I am," Billy replied. "Why are you here?" "Where is here?" Sam asked, confused, looking around the beautiful surroundings. "Afterlife," Billy muttered. "Wait, am I dead?" "You're dead," Sam gasped in shock. "I am, and you are almost," Billy explained. "Wait, hang on. Back up. When did you die? Someone as lovely and kind and as human as you has never been on the news," Sam muttered. "I've been on the news," Billy smiled. "No, you haven't. It's all been about the death of the Blue Ranger," Sam snapped. She looked at Billy, who raised an eyebrow and waited, then it hit her like a bullet train. "Holy crap, you're the Blue Ranger," Sam blurted. "I really don't like to brag, but yeah," Billy told her. "So that coin, it belongs to you, right?" Sam asked. "It does," Billy nodded. Sam stood there in shock. She was baffled that the nicest tech guy in history was also the badass Blue Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. "Okay, so why are we talking here now?" Sam asked. "This coin is meant to find its next ranger," Billy stated. Then he handed it to her. Sam looked shocked and took it. "Sam, if you take this, you are now a Power Ranger. But this does not save your life. It just prolongs it," Billy explained. Sam nodded and took the coin. Then everything flashed and she was stood on the road. The burning hospital was above her. The monster stood there shot. "You're not dead?" Rocket Terror growled. "Damn straight," she grinned. She pulled out the power coin. In a flash of blue energy, she was holding the power morpher. "You are so stupid," the monster barked. "My name is Sam, and what can I say? I'm a rebel." Sam grinned. Then she held out the morpher automatically like it was second nature. "Rebellious Triceratops!" Sam called out. In a flash of light, she was morphed into the Blue Ranger. She stood there amazed. She looked down to see that she was still wearing her Ranger Slayer jacket, but it had become the same material as the Ranger suits. "Oh, hell yeah, this is cool," she gasped. "I destroyed the Blue Ranger once, and I'll do it again," the monster barked. "You had never had to deal anything like me before," the Rebel Ranger barked. She ran at the monster, who swung his rocket thrust arm. She slid across the ground, dodging the attack. She got up, jumped, and swung her foot into the monster's back. She then threw her fist into the monster's back several times, making the monster stumble forward. She then spun around and kicked the monster again. Her body felt so light and easy, it carried a lot of power but moved so gracefully. She struck the monster several times before the monster could retaliate. He swung his fist down, diving his explosive force like last time. The Rebel Ranger summoned her power lance and split it into two. She slid under the swinging arm and held up the lances in a cross formation. The explosive fist collided with the weapon, and an explosion erupted, sending the monster flying into the air. The Rebel Ranger quickly jumped to her feet and jumped up, joining the monster in the sky. She then connected the lances back together, forming the lance proper formation once more. She spun it around, which struck the monster several times. She then charged one end of the lance and swung it across the monster. The monster started shaking before exploding, leaving nothing. The Rebel Ranger landed on the ground, spun her lance around, and stood tall and proud. Suddenly there was clapping. She turned around to see everyone who had been in the hospital was now on the street clapping. Firefighters were almost amongst the group, and the Rebel Ranger bowed to the crowd. She looked up at the sun. Her ranger form kept her body safe for now, till she could have the operation. She looked up, and the fire was being fought in the distance. "Thanks, Billy," the Rebel Ranger muttered to herself. Sam sat on her sofa waiting for her son to come home from school. Her husband had gone to get her a nice tea when suddenly a portal opened in the middle of the room and a girl and a boy stood before her. Sam reached for her pocket, inching for a power mover. "Easy there, Sam. We're here to recruit you, not fight you," the guy said. "Okay, and what stops me from kicking your ass?" Sam blurted. She climbed off the sofa slowly, the pain making it hard to stand up too quick. "We're Task Force Hoja, and we're collecting rangers to help the multiverse, with those who have lost or losing rangers," the girl explained. Sam smiled. "I'm Minnie, and this is Chad," the girl introduced. "Well, nice to meet you guys, I guess." Sam sighed. The girl handed her a playing card with it. It was all black. On the back of it had the word Hojo in a spray painting font, and the front of it had the words Rebel Ranger. "What's this?" Sam asked. "It's your calling card, if you choose to accept," Chad explained. When the two strangers walked through the portal again, it closed behind them. Sam looked at the card, confused but slightly shocked. She tucked the card into her pocket, leant forward and picked up her iced tea and took a sip. "Well, life being a ranger is awesome. And I love being a ranger," she muttered. Then she listened to her favourite podcast, Zero to Hero, and waited for the news about the Power Rangers to come on while she waited for her son to return home from school. Thank you everybody for listening to this video and checking out the stories. Of course, there are plenty more where that came from. I encourage you to check out the rest of this channel, where you'll find more storylines for you to delve into. But there's even more than that. If you check out the description down below, you will find a whole array of different Tiger Tales channels. Each Tiger Tales channel is made for a specific purpose and hosts a whole array of different types of storylines. So I encourage you to check out the other Tiger Tales channels and delve into a massive amount of storytelling by myself and the Tiger Tales partners. If you have enjoyed yourself today, then please subscribe to the channel, as it does show your support. Now, of course, the whole reason why I'm doing this is because I'm passionate about story writing and storytelling. And, of course, you should dive into what you are passionate about as well. So, I shall end this video with Roll with Passion.
That before we can...
Don't touch my Pringles.
Bye!